9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
Hey, what's up, and welcome back to this episode of the Two Goats Show. Today, we're joined by a very special guest, Alexis, who's here to give us all the info that we need about the opponent through her eyes. So we're going to get started. But Alexis, before we get into, all the Rams hoopla, let us know who you are, what you got going on, where the good people can find you, all that good stuff.
Well, first off, thank you both so much for inviting me. I'm very excited to be here. Very honored. My name's Alexis Kraft. I have a podcast called Downtown Rams that I do with my friend Jake, where we cover the Rams every week and then cover everything during the off season as well. And that comes out twice a week. And I mostly am found on Twitter or X, depending on what you want to call it. And my username there is at the Alexis Kraft. And that's kind of where I like to converse with football fans and, kind of build a good community on there and just talk the NFL. It's finally here. Very exciting.
Yeah, thank you so much for joining us. It's kind of hard to find female content creators for other teams. So I was, looking out on Twitter/X, looking for content creators of the teams that we'd be playing, and somebody had linked your info in there, and I'm like, yes, finally I found somebody. And it was for, I'm like so thankful, that it's actually a division, that you're in the division, so we can actually do this, twice a season, so yeah, this should be great.
Totally.
But before we get into, about the 49ers, I kind of just want to get your thoughts overall, like where you're expecting, the Rams to be this season. Is it rebuilding? You guys came out here and kind of, made a little statement by beating the Seahawks week 1. Thank you. And that's a team that kind of everybody that was even thrown out there, they're going to they're going to win the division and all this. And you guys came out and beat them. So what kind of are you expecting from the Rams this season?
I think the Rams are kind of a weird team because last season, like our entire team was pretty much injured. So it was kind of hard to get kind of a gauge on where everybody was going to be to start this season. Now that everybody's healthy again, okay, what's going to happen? Now we have an offensive line. What's going to happen? We did lose a lot of players on defense. So that was very unsettling. I personally, going into the Seattle game, wasn't sure the Rams were going to pull it out. There was kind of like a lot of back and forth between Rams fans on if we could go win in Seattle, which it's very hard to win in Seattle, as I'm sure you guys know as well. It's just like not a very friendly environment for opposing teams. We have a lot of new faces, lost a lot of, people, like I mentioned, on the defense. And after seeing, what we could do against Seattle, I have to say, I'm feeling a lot better about the Rams than I did going into the season. Going into the season, I kind of was like, well, maybe we'll be like 8-9, 9-8. I think we're not going to be as bad as everybody else is saying we're going to be, but I don't think, we're going to be a powerhouse in the NFC by any means. So my hope was kind of like maybe by some miracle we'll go like 9-8 and get like the last wild card spot. Now I'm kind of feeling like, the Rams could still do that, but I'm feeling better about it. I think that, they exceeded my expectations, and I was honest about that on social media. I was like, wow, they surprised me. Just, going in, Matthew Stafford looked really good. We had some rookies step up. Rookie receiver Puka Nacua, is tied for a record for most receptions by a rookie in their debut, which was just incredible. And we'll only get Cooper Kupp back. He's on IR, so he doesn't come back until week 4. So I think we'll even get better then. So yeah, I'm feeling optimistic about the Rams. I definitely feel better after watching them week 1 than I did prior.
So I watched the game earlier today, and I was just so frustrated watching the Seahawks because they played terribly. But credit to you guys too, like not to take anything away from the Rams, because I actually thought they played a really solid game. And Stafford did look very comfortable. He was throwing into tight windows. The Seahawks weren't getting a lot of pressure, but I thought that Stafford looked great. And some guys on the defense as well impressed me. I think it's Kendricks, one of the corners, right? So, I was actually impressed with how you guys looked. And so overall, I'm just trying to gauge how you feel about this matchup in general, because I mean, the 49ers have kind of dominated the Rams in the regular season. Do you feel like there's potential for this to be a trap game for the 49ers, that they could give them trouble?
So I thought there were 3 teams that looked good week 1. I thought it was the 49ers, the Cowboys, and the Rams, personally, of all the games that I watched. And I thought the 49ers looked the best out of all the teams, honestly. I watched that whole game. I watched 49ers versus Pittsburgh, and I was like, oh, man, the 49ers look really good. It, like, irked me, honestly. I was like, wow, like, really, really good. I wasn't sure about Brock Purdy coming back from the injury. Props to him. It's a really hard injury to come back from, but he looked really good. Going into this game against the Rams, I feel like the 49ers definitely have the edge. Like you said, Shanahan has kind of had McVay's number in the regular season. So, that's obviously not something that can be ignored. I think the 49ers feel more comfortable gelling together. I think their group is a little bit more familiar. Like I mentioned with the Rams, they looked better than I thought, but there is obviously all those new faces. I think it might take a little bit, to really see what they can do when they build all that chemistry. 49ers, as we saw week 1, they've already got it. They looked really, really good, and they were playing an away game in Pittsburgh, which is also a hard place to play as an opposing team. So, yeah, I don't know. I mean, I would love to say that it could be a trap game for San Francisco. I think the Rams have kind of that raw potential to where it wouldn't totally surprise me if the Rams came out, and maybe the 49ers underestimate some of these new guys in the Rams where it could be a trap game. That's always a possibility. But just kind of looking at, the past and like looking through a realistic lens statistically, I'd have to say I think the 49ers probably have an edge there.
Yeah. You talk about these younger guys, and you talked about, them stepping up last week. Who's maybe, a player's couple, maybe an offense and a defensive player that, the 49er fans or maybe fans in general might not know about? Maybe, a under the radar person that maybe after this game we might know about, after this season we might know about, just maybe somebody that we can keep an eye on.
So on offense, we have a running back named Kyren Williams. He's number 23. His rookie year was last year, but the first game of the season got like a high ankle injury and it just derailed. He was out for most of the season. And then Cam Akers, our other running back, got really hot. So when he did come back, they kind of just let Cam Akers run the ball. But Kyren actually saw a lot more action than Cam in week 1, which I think surprised a lot of people. What's really interesting about Kyren is he's very good in pass protection. So he's kind of like that extra offensive lineman. So that's a really cool thing about him. And also the Rams like him a lot as a receiver as well. So he's kind of this dual threat running back that I think is going to make a name for himself as being kind of like a underrated threat. He was like one of the top waiver wire picks in fantasy after people watched the Rams game. So like his name was trending on Twitter and I was like, that's not surprising. I guess it's because everyone wants to sneak him on their fantasy squad. So offensively, I'd say watch out for Kyren Williams and then rookie Puka Nacua, who I mentioned earlier. Obviously going to get a lot more looks with Kupp out. On defense, I would say our rookie edge rusher, Byron Young. The Rams, I think their biggest weakness right now is the edge rush. There's just really isn't a presence there. I mean, even, they got 2 sacks against Geno. But other than that, not a ton of pressure. They did okay, but a lot of Rams fans are concerned about, the edge. But we do have a rookie edge rusher, Byron Young, as I mentioned, and I think that he is pretty underrated. And I think that as the season goes on and he gets more reps, he could end up being a really valuable player in our defense.
Curious what you think about the Rams offensive line this year. based on week one, I mean, they scored pretty well as far as, I saw how they fared for PFF, ESPN. They were ranked pretty highly. Part of that I know is because the Seahawks pass rush just wasn't really there. But I do have to say, like, Steve Avila, the rookie guard, looked pretty good. He didn't allow any pressures. But the 49ers have they've gone against Noteboom and Havenstein in the past. So overall, like, how do you feel about this group? And are there any worries, with the 49ers defensive line?
So overall, they also exceeded my expectation week one. However, like you said, I think Seattle struggled just getting the pass rush. So it'll definitely be interesting going against the 49ers. I do think that they aren't going to have as easy as a game against you guys. I mean, you guys have, Nick Bosa for starters. And also, a lot of other talented players up front. So yeah, I'm a little bit nervous going against San Francisco for our offensive line, but I do think our offensive line has improved since last year. Not just because they're actually healthy. Last year, like 4 of our starters got hurt, so that was kind of a nightmare. But also, like you mentioned, rookie Steve Avila looked really good in his rookie debut, and that was something that I was delighted to see, because I feel like the Rams offensive line for the past couple of years has been like not great. Like they're very hot. They've been hot and cold, and it was like we never knew what we were going to get out of them. And so I think he's going to bring some consistency into the offensive line, which is going to really help Matthew Stafford, who we definitely don't want getting hurt or getting hit. And they did a good job of that week one.
Yeah, I'm going to take it to the defensive side of the ball. Where do you think, do you think your defense is going to be able to stop? We saw what Brandon Ayuk did in week one. Obviously, we know what Debo does and usually does to the Rams. And obviously, we know Kittle, if and when he gets hot, it's hit or miss. But obviously, we have CMC to the mix now. Do you have a way to stop all of that? We know that the defensive players you guys did have, got traded away, and, most of your defense now is, younger. And, just because they're not well-known names doesn't mean they're not no names. So, they might be able to stop our guys.
That was a bar, Miriah.
It was.
That was a good one.
It was. Yeah, I think it's going to be a real test for them. I mean, they are really young, quote unquote unproven. A lot of people haven't seen them play. They haven't been together as a group very long. So they kind of have, I think they have a unique opportunity to either, really step up and take on some really good talent like Debo and George Kittle and Ayuk, or it might be a learning experience, which it'll be either way, but, hopefully they're able to hold their own, somewhat against a very talented 49ers offense. I think the real question for me is going to be kind of the young, inexperienced secondary. I mean, Darion Kendrick looked pretty good week one, but he did give up, a pretty easy touchdown to DK Metcalf. We have a rookie, Trey Tomlinson, as a corner. Russ Yeast is a second-year safety who's just now starting. So there's a lot of really young guys back there. So that makes me a little bit nervous about, what if one of them has to go up against a George Kittle, right? Like that's a little scary as a Rams fan. But I also, think it's a good opportunity for them. So I kind of don't know what to expect. I mean, I saw what the 49ers did against Pittsburgh, and I think Pittsburgh has a pretty solid defense. So sadly, I think the 49ers might have the upper hand in that matchup.
We do have a question in the comments for you from Niner Gang Podcast. How do you feel Atwell and Nakua will fare against the 49ers DBs?
I think it depends on how McVay calls the game, because neither one of those receivers are kind of like a DK Metcalf, right? They're not, or like a Cooper Kupp. They're really not going to get like 50-50 looks. I think what they're going to rely on with Atwell is he's very fast, right? So I think that there are going to be some looks to him where it's him one-on-one against a corner, and he's just going to have to beat the corner and be a vertical threat, which I do think they're going to try. Nacua is kind of like a slot receiver. He's got a lot of looks. I mean, he had like 10 plus receptions against Seattle. And so I think the Rams are going to look to just up that even more. So we'll see. I mean, I think Nacua, obviously very young, but very talented. I'm curious to see how Atwell does. I think that he is going to get a couple looks, just knowing how fast he is. The question is just going to be, you know, does Stafford place the ball in the right place? And when is McVay calling those plays?
So I am a little nervous about Nacua, and I don't know if you know, Alexis, but the 49ers have a nickel problem right now. Like, they haven't really figured out who their best nickel is, and they keep going back and forth between a couple guys. And so I'm kind of worried about Isaiah Oliver, who may end up starting this game as a nickel corner. So remember him. If you see him out there, just know I'm worried. So you should feel good.
I am as well.
Noted.
And so like I would be worried about him going up against Nacua, especially because like Nacua they lined him up all over the field on Sunday. So you're not just going to see him in one spot. So maybe there will be some times where he's not lined up against Oliver, but still, I think just the fact that Nacua seemed to have that chemistry with Stafford and Stafford was looking for him. Clearly he trusts him. I think I'm a little worried about that matchup, but I think overall, like the 49ers will be okay. Look, I do have a question about how you feel about the Rams wearing their white jerseys. Do you think, like, what reason would the Rams have to wear their away jerseys for this one?
So I think the Rams jersey situation is a little bit complex at the moment because when they did their rebrand, they had the blue jerseys and then they had the bone jerseys. Mm-hmm. The problem is nobody really got on board with the bone. So they ran into a problem where it was like nobody wanted the Rams to wear them during the games. No one was really buying them. So they kind of got the message, and they come out with these white jerseys, which are pretty much the only Rams jersey right now that I think the fan base universally really loves, because a lot of people I think still kind of don't like the gradient on the blue. I'm kind of fall into that camp, although I do own it. You know, I do own a few Rams jerseys. It's not my favorite. So I think the Rams kind of were like, all right, we're going to wear the white jerseys. Like when they released their jersey schedule a couple of weeks ago, it was like 8 games out of, 17 games. So like they were like really got the message. They're wearing the bone twice the whole season, which is actually their primary jersey, not the white. So I don't know why they picked white for this game. I don't know if it's because it's a rivalry game and they know that a lot of people are going to be tuned in and they know that white's the favorite jersey. They did set themselves up to let the 49ers be in their home jerseys. So I didn't even think about that when like the schedule came out. I was just like, oh, cool. They're wearing the white jersey more. And then this week on Twitter, I was like, oh yeah, that is kind of like they set themselves up for that one. To let the 49ers wear their home jerseys. But yeah, I really don't know why they did it. Specifically, my guess is just they're trying to phase out the bone because they realize they missed the mark with the fan base a little bit on that. But yeah, so they will be wearing their away jerseys and the 49ers will be wearing their home jerseys.
I have a question kind of around that as well. So this morning, it might have changed since then. I don't know. I'm sure the numbers will change, from now till Sunday. But this morning it was reported that ticket sales for the game are at 64% 49ers fans, 36% Rams fans. You being, like a Rams content creator and all, like, are you aware of the whole like Levi South thing? And like, is it every team that goes in there like takes over the stadium, or is it just a 49ers thing? Like what's going on?
Well, so it's kind of like, so I don't live in LA at the moment. So like I'm not from LA either. So I have like kind of an outsider's perspective on this. I will say that there are a lot of 49ers fans that live in LA. There are a lot of Raiders fans as well that live in LA. And now I believe there are starting to be a lot of Rams fans. But I do think it's taken maybe a little bit of time to extend that Rams fan base. There are a lot of OG Rams fans from like the 80s, 70s beyond, right? I do think that maybe it took a little bit for that fan base to catch on, but there were already a ton of 49ers and Raiders fans there. So I do think that they are going to kind of naturally have that advantage there. I was at the NFC Championship game 2 years ago. It was January 2022, Rams and the 49ers, and there were a lot of 49ers fans there. I did witness it myself. So I'm not really sure. I do think that there are a couple teams that, travel really well, and I think the 49ers are one of them in the NFL. But I also do think there just are a lot of 49ers fans in LA. So, yeah. And like I said, wearing the home jerseys, I can see why it's going to be a thing on Twitter. Like I'm sure you guys follow or see a lot of Rams accounts. I see a lot of 49ers accounts, and I know that it's going to be like a friendly or maybe not so friendly, depending on who's tweeting it on Sunday. But yeah, I think I don't know. I probably didn't really give a good answer because I'm not from LA.
No, I mean, that's good.
If I was from LA, I'd probably be way more passionate about it right now. Like I'd be like, no, and I'd like, defend. But like I just don't really understand. But the Chargers are also in LA, and I will say that the Rams fill out the stadium a lot better than the Chargers do.
That's fair. That's crazy to me because like even the Chargers are good, and it's like they can't fill up their stadium. It's like what is going on in LA? But
I mean, they even took over the stadium in Pittsburgh week 1, which I was surprised. All the fans traveled that far. Literally across the United States. So, I mean, I guess they will travel anywhere.
Yeah. But Alexis, Aaron Donald. All right, like let's not bury the hatchet. Aaron Donald, he's a beast. Okay. The 49ers have had success with Aaron Donald recently because they had Daniel Brunskill, who I don't know how, but like he was able to neutralize him every single time he went up against him. I don't know what it was about him specifically that he could do that. But now Daniel Brunskill is not in the mix for the 49ers. He's no longer on the team. You have Spencer Burford, who had a 28.6 PFF grade last week. He had 3 penalties. You had Colton McKivitz, who allowed 3 sacks to TJ Watt. So as a Rams fan, like how are you guys feeling about Aaron Donald going up against this right side of the 49ers offensive line?
I think they have a good shot to hopefully get some sacks in. I think Aaron Donald, well, he's always good, but he does historically against NFC West teams step up. He seems to get like a little extra fire inside of him. So I do expect him to be a problem on that defensive line. And also he's in a, kind of a different position this year because he's pretty much the only veteran on our defense. So, and he's been pretty outspoken about that, taking on that role. And I think that, he is trying to set an example and, he knows if he steps up and gives 150%, everyone else will. So I think he's going to have a pretty productive day, or at least I'm hoping. And like you mentioned, I know that there's, some new faces on that offensive line and the struggles, from last week. But yeah, I'm hoping that he has his classic NFC West rivalry game, and hopefully we see some sacks. He got one last week.
Yeah, I saw that. I have one more question on just like, I guess not new guys, but like for the 49ers, you guys have not faced Deebo Samuel and Christian McCaffrey in the same game. I couldn't help but notice. And also Brock Purdy, you guys haven't played Brock Purdy as a starter yet. So how do you feel like the Rams could prepare for each of those guys and all those guys like combined right at the same time? Because Deebo and McCaffrey have had some like pretty good games against the Rams in the past.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be a challenge for the Rams facing all of those guys at one time. I think, McCaffrey is a dual threat. Obviously, he's very good in the run game. He can also be used as a receiver. So I think the Rams, watch out for that. Debo is just historically a problem for the Rams. I don't know that McVay and Raheem Morris, our defensive coordinator, have quite figured out how to contain him. So hopefully, they have something new this game. I think, the Rams did really good against the run last week, but I don't know that Seattle. I mean, Kenneth Walker is very good, but I just think they just didn't have a good game. It's going to be a lot different going against Christian McCaffrey. So I hope that the Rams can hopefully at least contain him somewhat, the way that they did Kenneth Walker last week. But yeah, I'm very curious to see what the Rams are going to do going up against Debo, Christian, Ayuk, Kittle. I mean, like I mentioned earlier, it's going to be a big test for a young defense. So it's kind of baptism by fire, I guess.
Steph, the only thing I have left for her is, the final ending predictions. So if you have anything else.
No, okay. I'm good.
All right. So Alexis, we appreciate you so much. Before we get you out of here, just want to get your final prediction. I know you said that, you think the 49ers are going to win, but, just, to help our big heads a little bit more, can you let us know again what you predict the final game to be?
So I am predicting that the 49ers win, but I think it's going to be a close-ish game. So I think it's going to be like 28 to like 34 or something like that. I think that the Rams are going to find some success offensively. But I worry about this defense struggling against your guys' loaded offense. I think we're very young, we're inexperienced. I do think we're talented, but again, they're seeing something for the first time. They're still building that chemistry with each other. And they're going against one of the best offenses in the league. So that's going to be interesting. I obviously hope I'm wrong in my prediction. I would love for the Rams to come out and surprise everybody. I know they're huge underdogs, and rightfully so, but yeah, I think it's going to be like a 28 to 34 San Francisco win.
I could definitely see that.
Yeah. Steph, I mean, to be fair, like if they're able to score 28 points against the 49ers defense, I think they would impress a lot of people.
Yeah.
So. Yeah.
That's fair.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Again, Alexis, we thank you. We appreciate you. We definitely would love to have you back when we play the Rams again. And yeah, thank you so much. Alexis, the info to follow her, subscribe to her, all of her info is in the description of this video. So make sure if you're watching it live, you're watching on replay, that you do go and give her a subscribe and a follow. It is greatly appreciated. We all have the same common goal, so please help each other out. We truly appreciate it. And Alexis, we thank you and we appreciate you, and we'll talk to you again soon.
Thank you so much. This was great, guys. Really appreciate it.
Thank you. All right. Let me change this over. Then I'll grill Steph now.
What up, people? She's still here. Is she in the back?
Yeah.
Okay. No, I was just gonna say, like, after watching the game that I watched earlier, it's all still fresh in my mind. I was thinking that the Rams looked better than I thought they would, and I think at the same time, like, the Seahawks just looked terrible. I was so pissed watching them play because they were like moving in slow motion. They were missing tackles. It was undisciplined football on both sides of the ball. And so, yeah, but at the same time, like I do give the Rams some credit. I mean, I think their offense did look good. And so people who are like, no, the Rams are going to suck. I'm like, I don't know. Like it's still Matthew Stafford. They still have Sean McVay as the head coach. Like, so I still think there's some room for the Rams offense to give the defense some trouble potentially. But as Alexis said, like, I do agree that I think the 49ers offense is how it's going to be just too much for them and the young players. Cause like, I just know Kyle Shanahan is going to take advantage of some of those matchups. And because they're such young players, and they may be really good young players, and maybe they do surprise the 49ers. And I think the one advantage that the Rams have in that case is that there isn't a lot of tape on some of these younger players, so you don't really know how to attack them. What are their weaknesses, right? And so Kyle could maybe figure that out as the game goes. But yeah, I think there's potential that this could be a closer game. But there's no excuses for the 49ers. They're the better team on paper, like top to bottom. They have to win this game.
Yeah, I agree. You had, talked about a little bit with her about, the O-line and the penalties, and that's what really worries me is our O-line going against, it don't matter if it's Joe, Tom, and Harry next to Aaron Donald, right? Like, it's still Aaron Donald there, right? Like, we sent 3 guys to Aaron Donald, and still, like, we have, it's like, I don't know. And especially, like, if we had, 11 penalties week 1, like, we can't go into this game with 11 penalties. Like,
Right,
and our
exactly.
O-line making stupid freaking mistakes with our defensive players. Although I like, I like that little chippy stuff back and forth, but like, we got to play smart. You can't be hitting people out of bounds and doing stuff like that especially when we're going against division opponents, and the score could be closer. It could come down to a freaking field goal. You never know in these type of games. So that really worries me. Like, how do you think that O-line's going to stand up against that?
I mean, I really don't know. I mean, I think what we saw in week 1 was the 49ers literally like avoiding that side. They were running to the left side, and I don't blame them. But this week I kind of wonder if they're going to do the opposite, if they'll run plays at Aaron Donald. Because that is sometimes a strategy that teams do to like neutralize someone who's very aggressive, like Donald is. There are going to be reps where Burford or McKivitz just probably lose those reps outright. But I still think that overall the 49ers offensive cast is able to overcome those things, because we saw it in week 1. I mean, despite Colton McKivitz giving up 3 sacks and all these pressures to TJ Watt, and despite Spencer Burford having a pretty bad game himself, like, they're still able to score 30 points, and they could have probably scored more if like the game wasn't already decided shortly after halftime, right? So I just think they do have to play disciplined, though. That's going to be key, because the 49ers literally just saw the Seahawks like lose to the Rams. And mind you, the Seahawks are a better team on paper, obviously. But you see so easily how a team who makes mistakes, who is not on their game, who's not locked in, can easily lose to a team like the Rams if they're not careful. So I hope that's what the 49ers got away from watching that game. And I also hope that, I kind of assume and think that they will be locked in for this one. So just got to clean up the silly mistakes.
Yeah, I'm with that. Let's flip it to the other side. Dion, what's up, Dion? What's up, chat? Appreciate all of you guys being here. Appreciate the questions, Dion, for Alexis as well. He said, I believe our D-line is going to massacre their O-line. I don't believe they're ready for this pass rush. I'm just saying. This D-line, wow. Let's talk about Drake Jackson with 3 sacks. And yes, everybody, now want to be, they were cleanup sacks. They were this, they were that. Well, he was there to get it done. Nobody else was, right? So, I mean, the other players could have been there to clean up sacks, and they weren't. Somebody has to do it. So, every time that, because like I've been high on Drake Jackson since we drafted him. So every time that during the game that he would get a sack, I'm screaming, right? Like I'm sitting next to my wife and I'm screaming, yeah, that's for all you motherfuckers that wanted to replace him every single chance that you got. And so every sack as he got one, it just got louder and louder and louder.
You know
I'm
what?
like,
I don't think the 49ers were trying to replace Drake Jackson. In
no,
fact, like
I'm not the 49ers.
oh, okay.
I'm talking about the fans.
Oh yeah. That was ridiculous. That's
They
ridiculous
were
to
trying
me.
to
Like
get every edge rusher that they possibly could to
so
go opposite Bosa.
yeah, I do understand like wanting to I know Brian Burns is the name that comes to mind. Just all
Brad.
49er fans are
Yeah.
like obsessed with Brian Burns. Thank you, Brad, for
Mhm.
that. But you know, I think there was just a lot of trust that the 49ers were putting in Drake Jackson, and I think like a lot of us just weren't sure. I think I was always optimistic about Drake Jackson and him being able to take that next step. And certainly in week 1, that sort of validated all of that, right? Like, and it wasn't just cleanup sacks. Like, yeah, maybe that first one where it was Eric Armstead who did most of the heavy lifting on that one. But if you watch Drake Jackson, he's able to push his guy, and that's the reason he's in position to make that sack too. So he's doing his work, and he's looking good out there, pushing people around. And so I think that is kind of an underrated, aspect to this defensive line now, because now that we know that Drake Jackson and Clinton Farrell could actually hold their weight out there, I mean, I think this defensive line has the potential to be better than, last year's defensive line. And so I do expect that the Rams offensive line are going to have a tougher time than they did against the Seahawks. It might be a bit of a shock to them. The one thing that I'll say about that, though, is that Stafford was getting the ball out very quickly against the Seahawks, and he was accurate with the football. So there's going to have to be a combination of the defensive line getting pressure quickly while also covering well on the back end, so that he doesn't have those quick throws available to him. I do trust that the secondary will be able to, do that better than the Seahawks were able to. But at the same time, like I mentioned, this nickel situation is scaring me. I am not comfortable with it right now. I don't mind Lenore being in the nickel because there's a reason he's outside starting corner. He's a good corner. But then you have Ambry Thomas on the outside, and that didn't look good in week 1, right? So I really don't know what they do, because it's either you have a guy who's a liability potentially on the outside and Ambry Thomas, or you have a guy who potentially could be a liability at the nickel spot. And who's the guy who blew up last week? Puka Nacua, who, primarily out of the slot, but they can move him around as well. So wherever that poor matchup is, or I guess for the Rams, it'd be a good matchup. Wherever that matchup is, they're going to go line them up there, right? So I think that there's a weak spot somewhere, no matter how you slice it, in the secondary, that I think the Rams are poised to take advantage of if they don't figure that out.
I agree. That's where I have the most concern with this game, is that back end, because Tutu, he's fast. He can easily burn one of our guys. We have no guys really that, like, I don't know, like Tarvarius Ward. Never mind. I'll just keep it to myself.
What?
What? I don't know. I feel like he can get burnt. I'll just say that.
Ward? Woody Ward?
Yes.
By fast guy, he's not the fastest guy. He's not the fastest guy.
He ain't a lockdown corner.
I think he's locked down enough, but I do see your concern with him going up against Tutu, because he could get burned by a very fast. I mean, a lot of corners can, right? There aren't a lot of corners who can keep up with like burners like that.
Because I'm just wondering how they would even have, who they would even have guarding who. Because they're going to have Tarvarius Ward on Tutu?
Tarvarius Ward stays on the
last week, so it's like,
yeah, Tarvarius Ward stays on the left side almost exclusively. So whoever is lined up there, that's who he's going to have. And like, I just know that.
So just line up everybody on the right and go for it. Call it a day.
Yeah. I mean, no, I think anyone could potentially get beat by Atwell, and I think that's where Hufunga may come in, and Gibson, because like they're the help,
Yeah.
deep. In particular, Gibson, right? Usually Hufunga's hanging around the box and in the middle of the field, things like that. But I think just making sure that you're not getting burnt deep, that's kind of the safety's job too, to help in those situations. And I'll also say sometimes even Fred could help out with that. I don't think he can help out that much, but like at least to the intermediate level of the field, and until another defender can maybe pick it up. But yeah, that's definitely a concern, because I know McVay will probably try something cute in this game too. I would expect we probably see some like end arounds for Atwell as well. Maybe give him that kind of like Debo role, maybe. So we'll see what they do. But yeah, I think I'm more concerned about their offense than anything else in this one.
Yeah. And I think it used to be, the other way around. I used to be concerned about their defense. I used to have this, scary defense, and now they traded everybody away except for Aaron Donald, pretty much, so it's like Aaron Donald and the babies. So it's like, well, we don't know any of these guys.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. I was very surprised about Ambry, because I was, like so excited for him. Oh, he made the 53, okay, he's going to do good things this season. And it's like, he makes it half of a game, and it's like he's already getting pulled and thrown to the bench. It's like, okay, well, this isn't good. If he couldn't, and you figure the Steelers wide receivers, what's his face got hurt, like what, second quarter, third quarter, somewhere,
something like that.
So really, they only had like one wide receiver, and
Allen Robinson.
Yes, and Ambry couldn't hang with that, So it's like that's scary. If you can't hang with what they had, we're going to face a lot more dangerous, wide receivers than that.
Yeah, I think so too. I mean, that's a concern. So hopefully they figure it out. I know Steve Wilkes is probably going to be on both of those guys, Oliver and Ambry. But like if Ambry was like benched, like Ambry's very much a like confidence guy. I feel like he needs to have some confidence. He kind of reminds me of who was it? Was it Witherspoon? Who was kind of the same way, just very like hot and cold, and it would kind of be like based on how he was feeling, which is funny. Ahkello Witherspoon is actually with the Rams now. So we'll see if Kyle can cook something up against him. But, I kind of feel like Ambry, him being benched last week maybe didn't help his confidence either. That could be concerning. I do kind of expect that it's going to be Isaiah Oliver starting this week, but I truly don't know. And I don't even know who's the best option at this point. I've been saying that, like, I do think that eventually Isaiah Oliver is going to turn the corner. He's going to look more like the guy he was last year. And whoever he was that the 49ers said he was the best, nickel corner available. He's going to find that again, I think. Like, he's still that player. I don't know what's going on really, but I think he'll figure it out. Hopefully for the 49ers, it's as soon as this week, right? So we'll just have to wait and see. But that would be the only worry that I have on the defensive side of the ball. I think everything else, like the 49ers are poised to dominate.
Yeah. How did you feel about, the workload that CMC had, in the first game? Did you think, maybe they should have started running some other running backs? Maybe I feel like Elijah Mitchell got a few carries, but it was like, okay, he's not doing anything, so we're just going to keep CMC in there all game, even though the game's out of reach. We know Kyle's weird with pulling guys now, right? But I just feel like if we're expecting him to make it through the whole season, and you have a running back room that has been talked up all off season about being this great running back room. The rookies have now into year 2. They're getting better. Elijah Mitchell should be healthy now, yada, yada, yada. Well, use them. Like, don't let CMC get beat up in the first 5 games, and then we don't have them down the stretch when we really need them.
Yeah, that was a bit of a, I wouldn't say concern, but like surprise to me. Although, like, Kyle has mentioned why he doesn't like to pull his starters like too early, to where like he still feels like there's a chance the other team could come back. And he cites the game, I think it was against the Lions
Mhm.
years ago, that they came back and all this stuff. So
It's like, don't pull all your defense
that's,
and shit, you know?
yeah, that's the one that concerns him. But I agree, like, I think you can do it sparingly without pulling like everyone or most everyone, right? But a guy like Christian McCaffrey, that's probably someone you want to pull in favor of someone else at that point in the game. Uh, in particular, like, I would have liked to see Jordan Mason. Like, he, before Christian McCaffrey joined the team, he was kind of working as that like closer, right?
Mhm.
And so that would have been the perfect spot for him to come in and kind of seal the game. Uh, Elijah Mitchell, I was actually surprised he didn't get a lot of run in this in week one. I think part of that has to do with the fact he's maybe still coming back from that injury and not quite at 100% where they feel comfortable giving him all those reps. But I think with time, we start to see a little bit more of Elijah Mitchell, and hopefully, in turn, that means that Christian McCaffrey's volume can maybe be dialed back when in those instances where it's not needed as much.
I wonder if they're scared of the fumbling, because the fumbling was
Of
an issue.
Mason.
Yeah. You know, and he's like, if we pull CMC
Yeah.
in the third or the fourth and put Mason in there and he starts fumbling, then the game's going to get out of control, you know?
Yeah.
I don't know, but it's
That's
like,
a
well, if
good
that's the
point.
case, then you need to keep TDP active, you know? It's like, keep the one, whichever one that you trust, one of them, somebody you have to trust, not just CMC.
Yeah, no, that's a fair concern, actually. Yeah, he did have some fumbling issues in the preseason, even at camp. So that would be one way for the Steelers to start a comeback, right? So maybe I understand that. So yeah, maybe it's more so that Elijah Mitchell just, they didn't feel comfortable giving him those snaps while he's still just getting his bearings back.
What are your thoughts on 49ers wearing home reds to the Rams?
I love it. I love it. And like I feel like the Rams, inadvertently jinxed themselves a little bit. Sure, Rams like the white jerseys. I like, okay, out of all their jerseys, I think the white ones are the better looking ones.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, come on. You already know that 49er fans are going to arrive in troves and,
Look,
like
out of all
shuttles,
games,
buses, like just buses full of like 49er fans showing up to SoFi Stadium / Levi South. I mean, you already know that's a thing. So like, why give the 49ers that, I guess, extra boost by letting
like
them
they're
wear
trying
their
to like make their
too.
fans laughing stocks of the freaking NFL, I swear.
Yeah, I just think it's a bold strategy, honestly, on the Rams' part. But it'll be great for the 49ers. I mean, like I said, it's going to be majority 49ers fans, so it should feel like a home game. If anything, like, I feel like when those away games have that many 49er fans, more so than the opposing team, it's almost more energy than home games, because you have people who don't normally get to go to, Levi Stadium to watch the games, and they're extra pumped for this because there's more stakes. There's more at stake. So I think we'll probably hear 49er chants through our TV screen on Sunday. It wouldn't surprise me at all. And I think in turn, that's going to make the 49ers play a little bit harder, especially on defense, right? So yeah, I think the Rams maybe didn't realize what they did with that decision.
I hope it really, really costs them, because like their PR, like whoever's in charge of it, I don't know, the scheduling people, somebody has that specific job, and they really fucked it up. Like, you should be fired, because out of all games to do it to, this should have been the last one. The last
only
game on the list.
Like, they could have waited. I don't know. Yeah, it's very weird.
I understand.
I understand not liking that jersey or like wanting to phase the bone jersey out because it's hideous. The fans don't like it.
What is that, like tan or?
It's that like gray. It was like that weird gray, light gray color, and it was their worst jersey.
Why did they do that shit to begin with?
It was their worst jersey, hands down. Yeah, no, the jerseys all together were kind of pretty bad, but it's neither here nor there.
All right, predictions. Let's do predictions and let's get out of here so we can finish some Thursday night football.
Yeah, I love to watch the Eagles and the Vikings stink it up as they are right now.
Are they?
Yeah, they're both looking pretty bad. So I'm going to go with the 49ers on this one. Leaving said spoiled milk color. Basically, that is like actually the best description of
like a oatmeal kind of.
Yeah, almost. Yeah. No, literally. I'm not even joking. Look them up.
Yeah.
So my score prediction is I think 34.
What?
34-13.
Eagles had 2 interceptions on one drive.
Yeah, it's terrible. Also, like Madison, I'm pretty sure fumbled, and I'm pissed because I have Madison in a league of mine. But yeah, 34-13, I think.
34-13.
Oh, she's writing it down. Damn it. Holding me accountable.
Yeah.
She says, I'm checking your homework next Thursday. See if you were right.
I wrote mine down somewhere.
Okay.
Let me find it.
I just be throwing out.
I change mine every show because I can never remember. Oh, here it is. Oh yeah, I said my heart wants to say 31-0.
Okay.
And my brain wants to say 31-3.
Okay, 3.
Come at me, Alexis.
Oh my god, that's hilarious.
So yeah,
I was trying okay, I obviously respect like any time that we have like another female content creator or just any other content creator, you got to be like respectful. But like in this particular game, because the 49ers like again on paper are just so much better than the Rams, like I almost didn't know like how to frame my questions to make it seem like without making it seem like I'm like the 49ers are gonna own you guys. Like, it was just so hard to like frame my questions in like a polite way. I don't know.
Yeah, I understand.
Hopefully
and especially when we want to have her back, At least
for sure. No, she was awesome.
You're like, we don't need to have them back, so it's okay. But
I think it was a very nice civil conversation. And yeah,
even though you were worried about me asking her about Levi South, but
no, you did that politely as well.
I'm like, guys, I'm doing it.
You guys in the comments are awesome though, because like not only have you guys been chatting us up in the comments, but you're watching the game and still here. Like I respect that a lot. Shout out you guys.
Yep. And I also respect the fact that you guys have been 2 episodes down with other content creators from other squads, and you guys have been super respectful. So I really appreciate that, because I have been in other chats of shows that they do. And of course they're bigger, so with bigger chats is going to come other things. But, even the smaller ones, other shows where they mix, content like this, and the comments are very disgusting. So I appreciate you guys for keeping it civil. It's fine to have, back and forth and be a smart ass. I'm a smart ass, I don't care about that, but just be respectful at the end of the day. That's all we ask.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, next Thursday, who do we play next week?
Miriah, we have a game next Thursday. The 49ers, well, not us, but the 49ers play the Giants on Thursday Night Football next week. So we'll have to do our either a preview or like a post game together. We'll talk. We'll talk. We'll talk.
We'll figure it out. We'll be here.
You guys
I'll find who is it? Giants, right?
Yes, New York
I'll
Giants.
try. I don't know. Nobody has told me about no Giants female content creators, so I'll be on the search and we'll
All right,
be here.
yeah, we gotta look out for that.
All right, fam. We appreciate you all so much. Thank you again, everybody, for being here. Make sure you guys are subscribed to both channels, Steph 49K and 49 Faithfully on YouTube. Greatly appreciate it. Subscribe to both, like both, and yeah, we'll see you guys same place next Thursday. We're out of here, y'all. Have a good weekend.